I think one of the people that you have to go to and you have to give credit to, I mean, he is the captain. I don't know what else you were going to say to him, but the thing that impressed me about Claude Giroux, looking back now, at the time I didn't necessarily think that, but when they were at that low point, he's the guy who came out and said, don't worry, we're going to make the playoffs. And everybody looked at each other like, you know, this guy has 25 heads. Did he know something that the rest of us didn't, Rob?
No, he was taking a stab at the dark. But he knew they had at least three solid lines. They had a veteran defense that was on the slow side but could still play, and they had two capable goalies. He knew that. He just didn't know why they couldn't play up to expectations. Mm-hmm. I mean, to the point of where they not only started out with 7 losses in their first 8 games, they were barely averaging a goal per game. Yeah. I mean, it was just a matter of they were taking a lot of shots that were going 20 feet away from the net, and I do think the style change helped to some degree with that, because Laviolette's system kind of encouraged a lot of high-speed breaks in the neutral zone, shooting off the rush and things like that. And you know, if you dump and chase and you get the puck in the slot area, it's a lot easier shot.
Yeah, Matt, something I wanted to specifically ask you about Giroux, and that is that he was clearly a different, almost a possessed player after the break. How big a deal do you think that really was, the snub of being left off the Canadian Olympic team?
I have to think it played, you know, something into it. I know that the politics behind everything, and you know, it might have been a little bit played down in the way that Giroux viewed it, but you have to think, especially seeing everything that Canada did up, you know, in Sochi, that certainly played a part for him, and he has looked a different player since, but it's also been more composed. You know, he hasn't. It seemed like at times early in the season he was trying to do too much, and he was trying to, you know, maybe make passes and make plays that weren't there. Mm-hmm. But since he's been able to channel that, and that's, you know, that's not always the case. I'm sure that the rest helped. The fact that he had a few weeks off to, you know, not get battered by all manner of international hockey players. But I think part of the story of this season for him is that snub and what it's done to him.
They did him a favor. I mean, the showers didn't even work, right, in the Olympic Village. I mean, and definitely that, you know, he's fresher. But I also think, though, that with Giroux, it was evolving leadership with the Flyers, like who was going to be the guy. And if nothing else, you know, they learned that this year. You know, he's the guy.
We do have in honor of the fact that we are, in fact, here for our last show here at the Widener campus, we have a special connection to Widener here, and we're going to ask a special trivia question that's tied into Widener and the Flyers. And that is the fact that there is, in fact, a specific connection between Widener and the Flyers. And the question is this, and I'll put it to the panel. We actually have a graphic that we'll put up on the screen that is a multiple choice, but we'll ask the panel first, which Flyers coach just happens to be a graduate of Widener Law School?
Well, I wrote that feature story about 22 years ago, so I'll just pass it along.
Matt, did you?
I wasn't anywhere near Delco 22 years ago, so I must have missed that edition.
It was one of two guys. Pat Quinn?
That's the one.
Pat Quinn would, in fact, be correct.
My second guess would have been Hitch.
Was an attorney.
Pat Quinn,
and a proud graduate of the Widener Law School.
And a great guy.
Yeah.
Now, as an addendum, the current general manager was also sort of a student here, because when
Homer attended Widener?
Homer needed a brush up on coaching skills when he was a graduating player, I'll call him, and he consulted Bill Manlove at the time.
There you go.
Bill Manlove was the Widener football coach at the time.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the opening series Thursday night against the Rangers. First things first, Rob, the Flyers have not won in Madison Square Garden in forever. They've dropped their last 8 games in New York. What do they have to do to turn that around? They obviously, with the Rangers having the home ice, they've got to win a game in New York to win this series.
They have to. Winning a game will get rid of that, but they have to basically have to forget about it. Yeah. And you know, they went years. They went 15 years without winning a game in Detroit at one point. At least 15 years. It just happens in the league. Now, what's a surprise is that there's a lot of frequency with them going up to Madison Square Garden, and It's been 3 years since they've won there. But they basically just have to put that out of their minds, because these are two teams that play similar styles, and the whole key about the Rangers is that they have a guy named Lundqvist in net,
Yeah.
who is the best goalie in the world, in my opinion. And they also have a defense that is as fast a defense as is out there, and a tough defense also. That's really the difference between the two teams, is that defense and Henrik when he's on his game.
The odd thing is that the Flyers, especially this year, they've been a very good road team, and yet they just cannot get past this hurdle in New York.
Well, that said, they only played twice there this year.
Each team held their
The last game was on March 26th, and it was
Yeah.
their worst game of the last 2 months. So there's something to be said about what's going
I'd
on.
take out that film of the Stanley Cup, their first Stanley Cup playoff year, when the Flyers literally beat up the Rangers. I'd show the guys that film.
We're gonna bring back Rolf
with Dave
Neal, for God's
Schultz
sake.
pounding on Rolf. Well, you don't have to, I know the game has changed. Maybe just,
You have a Flyer sweater on under that jacket, don't you?
maybe just a quick little clip of that, but show that to the guys. Show Bobby Clark with that toothless grin, coming up and cross-checking somebody, or, I'd show him that and say, hey, guys, here's your intensity. This is what you're after.
He was better at slashing ankles instead
Was he?
of cross-checking anyway.
As I said, we asked our readers to solicit a couple of questions during the day, and I got several questions, and one sort of recurring question with obviously just a bit of snark. It wouldn't be a Daily Times reader if it didn't have a little snark involved there. And this reader mentioned the fact that it just would not be the Flyers in the playoffs if there wasn't something of a goalie controversy. And this time it apparently involves an injury to starting goalkeeper Steve Mason, who suffered the infamous, according to the Flyers, upper body injury. Rob, what exactly is his availability going to be?
Well, no more tomorrow was the official word. We got him to actually release a statement because he was told he was allowed to do this. And he issued one sentence saying that he's going to know more tomorrow. When he did practice today where he skated. He went out there for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And tomorrow being Wednesday, he's going to know more then. And one thing we could ascertain from that is he did not suffer a concussion. I think
This is all from the run over that he got?
Yeah, and he did get bowled over, and that's another issue. But the league has to do something to protect its goalies better than that. That was just clearly ridiculous. But yeah, in my opinion, he's going to play.
Matt, take a scenario if he's not available and you go to Ray Emery. How does that change things, do you think?
Well, I think the first issue is the confidence of the team in general. I think Mason's been so steady this year, and Emery has been good at times, and he's been very, very bad at times, and that's the issue. Emery has some playoff experience. He's got a lot more playoff watching experience from that Blackhawks team, but I think that makes a huge difference. What I think it comes down to in the playoffs is that often you need a goalie to steal you a couple of games. And when it comes to Henrik Lundqvist, everyone knows his ability to steal games, and especially in this series, I could see this coming down to a lot of 2-1, 3-2 type games where neither team's really going to score like crazy. And if you don't have Mason, that really affects it. He's proven that ability to steal games. He's played out of his mind for extended stretches this season. He's stolen games time and again, and I don't know that the belief is necessarily there that Emery can do that, certainly not over a 7-game series if he can do that consistently.
Rob, one of the other questions that was repeated several times with people that emailed me today, I guess people haven't completely gotten Peter Laviolette out of their mind. There's a terrible fear apparently.
Forget about him. He's gone.
There's a terrible fear out there of the infamous goalie swapping of the last couple
I don't
of
know.
years.
I guess you can find it on the internet, but when the World Championship tournament takes place, he's going to be the head coach of Team USA. So that's his next stop.
You get your
Berube
goalie
has
swap
not
fix there.
is not said specifically that Mason is the guy. Is there a chance that we could see both these guys hanging out?
He actually has.
Oh, he
The
has?
old
Okay.
wink kind of thing.
Oh, okay, good.
Mason's the starter as long as he's healthy.
Yeah. Why don't you take a second? One thing that we should note, that the Flyers actually made a little news today. They unloaded $30 million in a 6-year extension to Andrew McDonald, the defenseman they picked up from the Islanders. He played very well since coming over. Are you surprised by the length of that deal?
He hasn't been great. He's been good. He certainly has done what he was asked to do, which was somehow get Luke Shen to stop turning the puck over constantly. But you know, Luke Shen is a very valuable piece as long as he doesn't have to bring a puck up with his stick on his skates, and that's what Andrew McDonald does for that blue line pair now, and he's very good at it. He needs to score more a little bit. I mean, he needs to get more involved offensively in the play for the Flyers, which is what he did with the Islanders. But 6 years at $30 million.
It's a nice neighborhood.
Wow.
Well, I guess once you've opened the floodgates and given that much money to Mark Streit, I guess nothing really seems that
Yeah, except Mark
terribly
Streit's a
outlandish
little bit more
anymore.
accomplished play.
He is, but he was also, what, 35 when he signed that deal?
34, yeah.
34,
That's true.
so,
but it's the same ballpark.